Okay, YouTube, welcome back to another video. We are sat very formally in an office chair and going to be breaking down nutrition when it comes to fueling both strength and endurance if you are training like a hybrid athlete or in a mixed modality of training systems, which sounds a little bit more fancy, but YouTube algorithm probably wouldn't have pushed that. So we'll go with hybrid athletes. Anyway, starting off, the challenge of hybrid training. Okay, so most people probably training hard 5 to 6 times a week, but feeling fatigued in the gym, with running, just in general. Okay, lifting heavy and running, yeah, legs are always sore, runs aren't getting much quicker, and maybe you're not able to recover as well. You're trying to eat clean, but constantly tired or underfueled because eating clean is going to take trying to eat a lot of calories from rice or potato can become quite tricky, or your performance stagnates even though your effort is high. So if I move myself into the middle between my feet, hybrid nutrition formula. Okay, so we've got calories, carbohydrates, protein, and fats. Obviously, calories being the overall intake, and then our macros that are split as well. So when we look at calories, it's our energy balance. We want to be eating enough to match overall training volume. If we're eating too little, i.e. in a deficit, fatigue's going to be high, muscle atrophy, which is loss of muscle mass, and overall poor recovery, which is not what we want. If you're in a calorie surplus, but too much so, excess fat, your runs are going to become very difficult because body weight is a lot higher. You're going to feel a little bit more sluggish, which is less than ideal. Not really too happy in the way that you look. Now, if we split this up into our macros, we have protein, which is repair and growth. That's going to help, obviously, with muscle repair, retention, and also great for satiety, so keeping ourselves feeling fuller. We then have carbohydrates, which is mainly our energy source or performance fuel, your body's main energy that you will use for your training, your running, and just everyday life. More volume of running or training, you're probably going to want to increase your carbohydrate intake. And then if we look at fats, you've got hormone and brain function. It's going to be great for your joint focus and can also help with hormones. So that's a little balance when we look at a nutritional formula. Oh, look, it's me again in the middle. Carbohydrates, let's start off with and break each of these down into more detail. So this is your fuel. This is your engine fuel. Now, if we look at pre-training over here, 1 to 2 hours before to allow for allow it to digest. You don't want to be eating and then going straight to your gym or straight on a run, because that's probably not going to be the wisest idea. Before your training, you could look for oats, some fruit, toast, honey, rice cake, something that's very easy and simple to digest, and roughly around about 30-60 grams. When we put, say, fast digesting carbohydrates, a little bit higher in sugars, hence why sort of rice cakes, bit of honey can be utilized, or like a bagel, banana, a little bit of honey. During your training, again, if you're doing like your run, for example, gels or like a carbohydrate mix might be worth utilizing, especially on those longer runs. Or if you're training fasted, I would definitely recommend some intra-workout sort of carbohydrate drink to help allow you just to keep energy levels topped up and your glycogen topped up. So definitely would recommend that. Cyclic dextrin, you can literally put in your water, mix with some squash or whatever. Happy days. Also, electrolytes to help with overall hydration. I'd be having electrolytes upon wake in general, and then obviously if you are doing a more of a higher intensity session, then also utilize those, or if you're in a warmer climate. Post-training, sort of within 60 minutes, it used to be the 20-minute window. If you didn't consume protein within 20 minutes, that session was pointless. I remember I used to believe that, and if my mum didn't pick me up from the gym with a protein shake, all hell broke loose and I'd kick off. When in reality, if you look at it, you're probably going to want to wait 30 to 40 minutes before consuming some protein or consuming a meal, because you want your heart rate to come back down so that your digestive system is in a good place to uptake the nutrition that you're about to digest with. Whereas if you're eating with your heart rate high, blood still going all around the body, it's then going to rush to your digestive system to try and break down the food, and it could cause implications, which is not what we want. So post-training, some carbohydrates, and also obviously, like we've spoken about protein in the past, but for carbohydrates purposes, rice, potatoes, as well, cereal, again, higher acting carbohydrate and sugars can be utilized as well. But, standard meal I would be consuming after. I'm really enjoying couscous at the moment. I don't know why, just something a bit different. But having that with some protein as well. Obviously, we'll go into the protein element in a second. Daily target can be anywhere from 3 to 6 grams per kilogram of body weight, and this is all going to adjust on the individual themselves, as well as the volume of training they are doing. Okay, now carbohydrates are not an enemy, they're not the problem, but underfueling your overall intake of carbohydrates most certainly will be. Protein, the recovery block, nice and simple, 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you're 70 kilogram individual, around about 140 grams of protein, and that'd be spread across 3 to 4 meals. A, because it makes it easy to consume throughout the day without forgetting, and B, from a digestive perspective. If you try and consume 70 grams of protein in one meal, A, it's going to be very hard, it's going to be a lot of food, and then also it will take a long time to fully digest, which will mean your appetite will drop, which is not ideal. Okay, and it will also lead to digestive implications, which is again not what you want. 25 to 40 grams per meal is going to be ideal. And you're going to utilize foods like chicken, beef, eggs, Greek yogurt, whey protein. If you are vegan or plant-based, tofu, lentils, soy protein, tempeh, seitan, that sort of stuff. And then post-training, combine that with your carbohydrates from the previous slide, you're good to go. So protein, very much a case of making sure that is included into each meal, as well as obviously a little bit more emphasis on that post-workout window. Fats, again, this is going to make up the remainder of your calories. Eating fats does not mean that you're adding fat. Okay, fats just tend to are the highest calorie per 1 gram. So 1 gram of carbohydrates and protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So just taking that into account. Okay, roughly 0.8 to sort of 1 gram per kg of body weight daily. So if you're 75 grams, around about 65 to 75 grams per day. 25 to 30% of your overall calories as well. Great for sort of, as I've spoken about before, hormone, overall health, skin, and do not again think more fat. I used to think if I ate high fat, it means I'm putting body fat on, which is not the case. Okay, olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, oily fish, eggs would be sort of sources of fat, and avoid cutting them all out completely, because that is going to have an issue. That's going to impact internally, hormones, etc. Timing. When it comes to meal timing, very, very important. Okay, fuel the work, not the clock. Okay, so make sure you're consuming the right meal with the correct amount of macros before session A, B, or whatever the session is. So pre-training, some carbohydrate, protein snack, toast, peanut butter, yogurt, or banana, not all together at once, but protein like a bagel with a banana and some honey is my go-to. During, some water and electrolytes, or an intra-workout carbohydrate drink, or a sports drink, for example. And then post-training, some protein with carbohydrates, chicken, rice, oats and whey, smoothie, dependent on what your preferences are. So if we have a look at an example day of hybrid fueling or hybrid nutrition for hybrid training, you got breakfast, oats, berries, protein powder, snack, lunch, pre-run, dinner, and then some bed. So you can see that's probably going to put you around about maintenance amount of calories, and then you would need to obviously adjust that dependent on what your goals are. Now, one thing I would say with this, in terms of an example day, is your days will look different dependent on what sessions you have that day. So if you've just got a standard gym session, for example, your calories may look like X. If you've got a double training day, your calories are going to look like Y. They're going to be even more. And then if you have a day of a long 25K run, then your calories are going to look a lot different compared to just a gym day. Okay, so what I like to do is consume the calories back that I've burnt through the exercise. So if I've done a 25K run, I've burnt 2,000 calories, I would look to consume around about 80% of those back. Okay, because we don't want to be in too much of a deficit, because as I've spoken about before, that will obviously not help with improvement in terms of our progress and recovery. So they may look different day to day, dependent on the volume and the output you are doing on that given working day. Okay, so just something to consider. When it comes to nutritional mistakes, a lot of people are under eating. Okay, if you're training multiple disciplines, then you are going to be needing to see food as fuel. I think in the past, and when it comes to body composition and sort of physique development, then it's going to be a case of a lot of people deficits drop body fat, surplus to gain muscle mass. Whilst that is true, when it comes to performance, we want to be fueling correctly dependent on the output that we are doing, like I've said, on that day. Mistake number 2 is not utilizing or not thinking of meal timing, so skipping pre-workout carbohydrates. So you will notice, you can go and try it if you want, go out on a run and just eat an hour before you run, and just have chicken breast and some oil on it. just go for chicken breast, and then do a run a couple of days later and have a bagel with some honey on before you run, and you will feel a lot better on the latter. Okay, so make sure you are prioritizing your carbohydrates around your training sessions. Mistake number 3 is neglecting your recovery meal. So just obviously focusing on your protein, ensuring you're eating enough as well of the right macronutrients to obviously help with that recovery process. Mistake number 4 is relying on caffeine to mask fatigue. So a lot of people will be consuming lots of caffeine. I think it's quite common in the fitness industry. Is caffeine is like just the thing to do. Monster energy drinks, coffee, going out, grabbing a flat white. Flat white is unbelievable. Now, if you are using, I would be using caffeine as a tool, not as a necessity. So utilize it around your morning session, not in the afternoon, because that's going to impact your sleep, which will impact your recovery, which is not what we want. But look to have that sort of around more higher engaging tasks, whether that be work or whether that be training. So I train at 11 in the morning. I'll have a coffee at about 10:30. That I know is going to be utilized to help me with my session, rather than just drinking caffeine all day just to get me through. You might want to look at other avenues like your sleep. Mistake number 5 is going to be inconsistent hydration and electrolytes. So just in general, I don't think enough people drink water, enough of it anyway. A real good hack is to have a bottle of 1 litre bottle with you at all times. And then at least that way, you're just going to be drinking it. Whereas if you're just drinking a glass at a time, then you've got to then get up, you've then got to fill it up, come back down. It can just seem a ball ache. So have a nice big litre bottle of water, and then at least that way you know how much you're drinking. And then with electrolytes, wake up, pint of water, put your electrolytes in your glass, drink it, happy days. If you're doing a session later on, which is like a high intensity session or interval based workout, again, utilize your electrolytes post that session to help obviously with the hydration process. So there we have it, a little bit more when it comes to nutrition for hybrid athletes, making sure we can fuel correctly for both strength and endurance. So if we enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.